Today we're going to be using every single block in Minecraft to create the craziest building I possibly can. For this challenge, I set 3 rules for myself. The first rule is that I must use every single Minecraft block at least once within this build. Second, every single block has to be visible from at least one side. So no using blocks I don't like and then hiding them with other blocks. Finally, the third and hardest rule, the building has to actually look good. This is where I feel people have failed before. I'm attempting to create something that actually looks decent with every single block and not cheat myself or you guys by just placing every single block into a blob. When beginning a big challenge like this, it's good to have a plan in mind before you even start. That's why I decided to completely throw that idea out and just wing it. To help myself figure out just how much brain power this was going to take, I started out by laying out all the blocks into a color formation that my builder brain could comprehend. You see, I may not have a plan, but what I did understand is that gradients were going to be my savior. This process took over an hour to complete, but I could already see my future self thanking me for laying out all these blocks before I started the building. This helped tremendously in figuring out where I was going to place all the blocks and how this puzzle was going to work. Right when I was about to near the end of these block placing shenanigans, for some reason my brain decided to take a hike to the other side of the country and I placed TNT by an active daylight sensor. If you're wondering if I felt as dumb as I looked, you would be right. Once I had all of my blocks placed and ready to go, it was time to start the building. I wanted to make a city building for my adventure map, so the style was going to be a little more modern. I began by copying my gradients and going to town on the front walls of the structure. You can see how my choice of gradients hard carried the beginning of this build. I was super proud of this first section and realized a good thing about using every single block is that the gradients look amazing. When things started to come together, it boosted my morale and I pressed on, block after block, stair after stair, idea after idea. I already felt like I was cruising through these blocks, but what was coming in the near future lingered over my head. I didn't realize that I would have to try and find a place for some of the weirdest and ugliest blocks known to man, but for now, I didn't have to think about it. This front wall concluded day 1 and I needed to take a break and make some food so I didn't starve. On day 2, I got started with the left and right walls and I wanted to make something a little more colorful because this part of the building was diagonal and the depth already made it look awesome. I decided to copy the building over to where it was actually going to sit to better create paths and roads around it. I also started on the back portion of the build, which I made into a really cool curve. The build was actually really starting to come along and I was making a lot of progress on the walls. At first, I was planning on making both the left and right sides of the building have the same colors and gradients going across, but by doing this, I wouldn't have enough room for the other colors. So instead, I just decided to completely redo the right wall right after I made it. This wall was giving me some trouble, and I really just couldn't figure out what I wanted for the right side of the building, so I decided to take a break from it and spend some time on the left wall. And then I decided to instead go back to the first wall and keep redoing it. But then I realized I had gotten bored of it and went back to doing the left wall again. My brain is really weird and it makes editing this video 10 times harder when I'm all over the place, but that's just kind of how I build sometimes. This is where I left off for day 2, to go and do some homework because I've been neglecting it for the past 3 days. On day 4, I completely redid the right wall and I got something I really liked. I was afraid the building would be too colorful, but I was pleasantly surprised and everything fit into the scenery. I began fleshing out the back end of the building and then had a really good idea for carpets and beds. By putting them on top of the windows, I was able to use all of those pesky bed blocks. You can still see I had a few blocks left, but I narrowed down most of the blocks to ones that were really hard to use. Even though the build kept getting tougher, I knew I could do it. I used the rest of my time to use some of the ore blocks and then finish up the gradient on the back of the building. This was the end of day 4 and I was excited to finally finish this challenge the next day. On the final day, I spent most of my time figuring out little spots where I could place blocks here and there. I really wanted to start narrowing down my block amount so you can see how it was all over the place. My goal was to get all of the blocks on the ground used and then work on the roof to finally complete this amazing build. While I'm frantically trying to place blocks all over the place, I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me that you've made it this far and I just want to say thank you. I don't have a lot of subscribers and I don't have a lot of views, and I really appreciate people giving me and my channel a chance, and it really means a lot to me. Anyways, back to the video. Once I completed figuring out places for extra blocks, it was time to work on the roof. Because the only blocks I had left were plant-based blocks, I decided to build a cool roof with a garden on top. I started out by placing some bushes around the edges of the grassy area to make people feel a little safer on the top of a building. This really brought the build together and made things seem a lot more alive. I began texturing the grass, and I was able to find a place for all the plants, and even made a small pond for the lily pads and frog spawn. I started making a path for people to walk on, and I also built an entire tree, which I realized looked extremely unnatural on the top of a building, so instead I decided to completely remove it to maintain the sense of realism I wanted to in this adventure map. I also textured the more industrial part of the building where I would place some makeshift HVAC equipment and other machinery. It was at this point I realized I was now holding the final block in my hand. This was it. I was finally able to complete my challenge. I ran to the finish line and slam dunked the last block. Wait. That wasn't supposed to happen. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. This challenge was really fun for me, and I had a lot of fun making this video. So thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.